What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I drop 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go! Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights with your boy EJ Stewart, where twice a day I do 2 live streams on what I like to call my sports-centered show. Not to confuse with Sports Center, but sports-centered show where we talk a lot of sports with I always say New York sensibilities, considering I am a New York sports radio host. But we talk about all things throughout the course of the national news as well. And this is definitely going to be a sports-centered show. I always say it's sports-centered because we talk about pop culture, we'll talk about wrestling, we'll talk about movies, we'll talk about television, we'll talk about all different kinds of things. This one is going to be heavy sports. This day that I thought was going to be kind of a run-of-the-mill day, especially when it came to the NBA, was nothing like that. This ended up being quite the day when it came to big news happening in the world of sports. We're going to get to all of it, man. I'm really excited to be back here. We'll get to plenty, including what was a huge day on the NBA trade market. You had some fairly big names being traded. Not superstars per se, but we had 2 multiple-time All-Stars get traded today, and it definitely signals a shift for some teams that I think we've been keeping an eye on for this upcoming season and for even next year. There's also some trades happening that could impact the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade fiasco, Bonanza, whatever you want to call it, for him as well. So we'll talk about all the details regarding the NBA trades. You got Nikola Vucevic going over to the Boston Celtics. You have now Jaren Jackson joining the Utah Jazz. So we'll break all that down, plus some rumors regarding whether Draymond Green may be seeing his last days with the Golden State Warriors. This is a juicy one when it comes to NBA rumors and NBA trades. We're going to get to all that in a little bit. We also got to talk some football. We will talk some Jets because I heard a report today from my radio station, WFAN New York, that made me want to throw up. And there are a lot of things about the Jets that I hear that make you want to throw up. And I have been kind of the guy that's been saying I'm kind of numb to a lot of the Jet just clownish behavior and the Jets' ineptitude that it seems to be perpetual at this point. But this today was one where I was like, oh, there really may be no hope for me. And I always say I'm the optimistic guy. I'm the optimistic fan. I'm the person that always tries to see the bright side of things. I'm the guy that always tries to see where other people are looking and saying this is not going to ever get better. I'm trying to see where things will eventually get better because I've seen every organization pretty much turn around at some point. I saw the Detroit Lions turning around. I've seen the Chicago Cubs turning around. I've seen all the lovable losers and not so lovable losers turn around, with the exception of the Jets and the New Age Browns. Those are really the only teams I've never seen quite turn it around. And today was a day where I thought, oh, shoot, this actually may never happen. And I'll tell you why in a bit. We have some details about the Jets and why there's been so much chaos with their coaching situation. Aaron Glenn remains a coach, but of course there was a red wedding essentially a couple of weeks ago where all these coaches got fired. They just fired the offensive coordinator. We had this thing where we thought Wink Martindale was in line to be next Jets defensive coordinator. That got blown up, and now we know why that got blown up, and it is the worst thing you can imagine in terms of why that happened. So we'll talk about the Jets and their Mad King. We'll also talk about the Giants, because like I said earlier, we kind of tacked it on at the very end. The Giants did hire a new offensive coordinator in Matt Nagy. Kind of had some glancing thoughts on it as it kind of broke towards the end of our show, but we'll have a full breakdown of that from earlier today. And then finally, more NFL coaching stuff. Todd Monken had his formal introduction as Browns head coach today. The Browns everything that happens with the Browns is way more dramatic than it should be. I mean, they really are like Jets Midwest. Because Jets are in many ways the same way too, but at least they have New York-ish to kind of blame for it. It just feels like the Browns should be kind of a run-of-the-mill team in theory. Like they shouldn't have the chaos and the drama that they seem to drum up now it seems like almost every year for a franchise that is a nothing franchise when it comes to winning Super Bowls, competing in the playoffs consistently. But yet, today at a press conference, where again, you do a press conference like this expecting to really try to limit the amount of headlines that get created because of this weird situation and what I would consider this weird like obsession with the future of Jim Schwartz, their I now learning beloved defensive coordinator. Like I know he was very good at his job, and he has been a respected coordinator for most of his career in the NFL. I didn't know they loved him like this, to the point where Todd Monken got asked questions about what his future is, and we heard all the details I mentioned last week about how he was apparently walking around the facility devastated when he learned he didn't get the job. I know way too much about this Browns coaching situation than I ever thought I would need to know. And then Todd Monken rips open the Band-Aid for even more chatter for us to talk about, because he took an absolute flamethrower, in my opinion, to Jim Schwartz. If any thought that Jim Schwartz was going to stick around as Browns defensive coordinator, I would say think again after what happened today. So we'll have that sound for you. This is going to be a good one again. This is EJ Stewart. You're watching 40 Days, 40 Nights. This is a show we broadcast twice a day, broadcasting multiple spots. First one, always at 8 a.m. Second one, always at 6 p.m. You can catch it streaming live where we are right now on YouTube, New Generation Media. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like the video. Make sure you comment in the comment section. Say what's up to your boy. And, of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media. Also streaming live on X, EJ_Stewart on X. If you're watching me live on X, what's up to the folks on X? Be sure to follow me there, EJ_Stewart. And also, we're streaming live on Instagram, IG Live. Be sure to follow me on Instagram as well, Action EJ. And, of course, follow me on TikTok, Action EJ. Let's get it rolling. Let's talk about this massive day when it came to the NBA and the trade deadline that is not here yet. But, man, did we have some big moves that came down the pipe today that definitely will definitely shift some things in terms of how we kind of view the rest of the season and how we'll view this upcoming offseason. It was a huge day, massive moves. The early feel I have is sometimes especially when moves are this early, because you're talking about this is deadline's Thursday, 3 p.m. is Tuesday. We had 3, I wouldn't say insignificant trades. I wouldn't say they were like blockbusters, but they were significant trades for sure. And it sounds like more could be coming for a trade deadline that I kind of assumed would be a nothing burger. It's almost guaranteed not to be now, because there are teams that have made moves that are kind of predicated on other moves happening, and teams that are positioning themselves to hopefully make more moves by making these trades today. And again, it's only Tuesday, and we got till Thursday, so I think there'll be more. I mean, I got to keep my phone and everything kind of locked right here, because I got to be sure that something could break while we're doing this show. That is just how intense this got today, and I think that we have a lot more crazy stuff coming. So we're going to begin with what happened with the Jazz and the Grizzlies. So the Utah Jazz, they have acquired Jaren Jackson Jr., a 2-time All-Star from the Memphis Grizzlies in a multi-year deal. So let's break this down. You got Jaren Jackson being traded to the Jazz. He's going there along with Jock Landale, Vince Williams Jr., and John Concher. The Grizzlies in return are receiving 3 first-round picks. To be clear, none of these are theirs except for one that could either be theirs or Cleveland's or someone else's, whatever is the highest of those teams. But these are all first-round picks, but picks that they've acquired through the likes of the Rudy Gobert trade, through the likes of the Donovan Mitchell trade, and those things. But 3 first-round picks are going out. I can grab you exactly where those picks are coming from in a second. But 3 first-round picks going to the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies also getting Georges Niang, Walter Clayton Jr., the first-round pick from this year, Kyle Anderson, and Taylor Hendricks, who actually was a lottery pick from a couple of years ago for the Utah Jazz, hasn't quite stuck with the Jazz so far. So, according to Shams Charania, this is the Jazz kind of ending their 4-year rebuild. Like, they have essentially been tanking and rebuilding this thing to try to put together a team that they hoped could win towards the future. And they were kind of slow treading in terms of putting this thing together. And this was apparently their first real big swing at trying to say, okay, now we're going to try to be competitive for next season. The playoffs probably unlikely this year, though we'll see. The Western Conference, the last few spots, the last spot or so, may be in play. We'll see what happens with the Clippers. There's a lot of the Warriors. There's a lot of things in flux going on in the Western Conference. But I think playoffs probably unlikely for the Jazz this year, but nonetheless, they will be interested in definitely competing next year. They're really excited about their core. Keontae George has turned out to be the one pick they really hit on. Like he's been a stud this year. He's kind of been one of the best kept secrets in the NBA this season. Of course, they have Lauri Markkanen, who's an all-star, not this year, but in previous years, and Walker Kessler, who is a restricted free agent. He is their starting center. According to Shams and according to multiple people that have been reporting about this trade today, this deal for Jaren Jackson has nothing to do with what they hope to be a long-term contract to be signed by Walker Kessler this offseason. So they're not trying to trade for Jackson in hopes that, or in anticipation that Kessler leaves and then therefore Jackson takes over the 5. There are a lot of reasons for just who Jaren Jackson is as a player, why him playing the 5 is probably not the best idea. But they plan for their core moving forward to be George, Markkanen, Kessler, Jackson, and I would include Ace Bailey in that as well. So on the flip side, for Memphis, just continuing this house cleaning, Memphis now enters what they're calling Shams and other reporters a full rebuild mode. Ja Morant is apparently now on the trade block. They are offering him to other teams, and he's expected to be next. These are expected to be Ja Morant's last days as a Memphis Grizzly. The Grizzlies, after acquiring these 3 future first-round picks, now have 12 future first-round picks over the next 7 seasons. That is tied with the OKC Thunder and the Brooklyn Nets for the most amount of first-round picks in that span. So, on the Jazz part of this, they had to get off the hamster wheel of the tank. At a certain point, you can't just continue to say we're going to just keep being bad. They've had terrible lottery luck. They have not been able to get a number 1 pick or a number 2 pick. That hasn't happened for them. Like Danny Ainge got very lucky when he was the general manager for the Boston Celtics or president for the Boston Celtics when they were able to get those high draft picks and they were able to draft Jason Tatum after trading down. They were able to draft Jaylen Brown. They haven't had the same kind of luck in Utah. They've been having terrible luck when it comes to the lottery. Even though they've been a bad team pretty much all these seasons, there also was a year where they kind of were like in no man's land because Lauri Markkanen came in, surprisingly, was really good. So they had to get off the hamster wheel of the tank. So that I understood because at a certain point, what are you doing here? You can't. They have all these young players, and it's kind of a mishmash of a team. They don't have a roster that's really cohesive in any way. It's a weird setup. So I got that. I don't love this being the swing that the Jazz want to take at being competitive. For a couple of reasons. Number one, again, if the plan is to play Kessler and Markkanen and Jackson together, that's a slow-ass team. Now, Jackson we know is a much more mobile, athletic defender. We know how dynamic he could be on that side of the ball. He's definitely slipped a little bit on that side of the ball, but he is still, a impact rim protector. He's an impact switchable guy. But him at the 4 next to Kessler, who's a true 5-man, not stiff, not non-athletic, but is a true 5, not a guy who's switching off to people or anything like that. And then Lauri Markkanen, who now goes back to potentially playing the 3, which he did in Cleveland, and that didn't go that great for him. The Cavs themselves, their success, the team success was okay. He didn't have that much success with that. He seems to have been much more comfortable going back to playing the 4 the way he has, and I don't know. I don't really love that as your front line. They have a lot of size. I just think if I'm a team, I'm just attacking them off the rim. And I mean, Kessler is a rim protector. They're going to rely on him to be that guy for them. But defensively, as good a player as Jackson is, I don't think this is the kind of guy they needed. I think they probably needed more of like a true 2 guard to sit next to Keontae George, or a true point to move George off the ball. If you were going to make a go-for-it move, that's what I would have done. I would have said, all right, Keontae George, you're going to move to the 2. You've proven that you're an elite scorer potentially, and we're going to get a true point guard in here. Or we're going to say, all right, we need to get a 2 guard next to George who can defend his position and allow Ace Bailey to grow into that 3 spot. What does this mean for Ace Bailey? I mean, I know he's 19 years old and he's super young, I guess, but this doesn't create more time for him. This seems to be it blocks more time from him. In theory, I guess he could be your 6th man, but I think he's the kind of guy that has star potential, and I want to get him as many reps as possible. So it seems like a bizarre swing. And then you trade 3 first-round picks. Now, albeit, again, they weren't your first-round picks, so you had some to spare. Again, Jaren Jackson being the piece, he's been very healthy this year. He has a guy that has had injury problems in the past. I'm just not. I'm not moved by this for the Jazz. I really, if they were gonna really make a big swing, it's not like this team didn't get better with this trade. They got an all-star caliber guy, and they didn't give up anything of real note in return. Walter Clayton's a rookie. Hendricks is a young player. Niang and is kind of a journeyman. Kyle Anderson's kind of a journeyman. I think you could be fine with saying we can move on from those guys. We just were waiting for this big Danny Ainge move. When he was going to cash in on these draft picks in a major way. He lost. Remember this. To be clear. Because when we say we want to give criticism and respect wherever it is, let's talk about what this Jazz situation was. They had Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. That was their original core. They didn't win. They kept coming up short, whatever the case may be. But that was what Danny Ainge inherited. He traded those guys for these draft picks. He still has some draft picks left, so it's not like this is over. But the early return on this is Jaren Jackson. You cannot tell me that Jaren Jackson and Lauri Markkanen came in, obviously, the Donovan Mitchell trade, that is a better positioning than they were just a couple years ago. Now, you could argue, well, they got the lottery pick that gave them Keontae George. Maybe that's the difference maker. But the Jazz were a top 4 team in the West with the guys that they had. Is this Jazz team definitely a future top 4 team in the West, given how difficult the West is right now? I can't say that. Could they maybe be a fringe playoff team next year? Sure. I can see someone arguing that. I just think for all the maneuvering that they made and all the tanking that happened, that this ends up being kind of what they finish with. It kind of to me, it still hedges on is Ace Bailey a star or not? If he becomes a star, then I think maybe you can say, okay, you can say George became a star, Bailey became a star, and even though maybe they didn't get a player in return as good as Donovan Mitchell, they still got good players in return, and now they have a team that can once again compete near the top 4 of the Western Conference. And now they've reshuffled the deck. We knew the last team had hit a wall, so they had to change something. But this being the change, I'm not that moved by it. I also look at the situation with Jackson. He because he's 6'10", 6'11", and because he can shoot a little bit, he gets described as a floor spacer. He's extremely streaky as a three-point shooter right now. He's shooting by a league average, about 35% from 3. Last year, he shot poorly from 3. He is very streaky up and down. And Markkanen, obviously, is a true stretch for Jackson in terms of offensively, how they attack teams, what they're trying to do offensively. I don't know if he's like this floor spacer that really impacts, Keontae George in a major way that helps his game. Like, I don't think he's not a better shooter than George Niang. Like, I don't think he is at all. He's a better player, but I don't know. Walker Kessler is a really good shot blocker. Do they need another rim protector at the 4? This just did not move me. I just, for all the talk about what was Danny Ainge finally going to do when they finally made their swing, Jaren Jackson Jr. being the guy, I'm not all that high on. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I want to see what Jackson and Markkanen look like playing next to Kessler. They've played big lineups because they've had no choice. They had John Collins. They had different guys. So it's not like Markkanen has only played the 4. But this is a little different. Like, this is like a true 4-man who like requires offensive usage. Like, he's a good player. This is not just John Collins or Hendricks or some of these other guys that they could throw out there where they're the quote-unquote 4. But, Markkanen is really, they got offenses running through him. This is a much different deal now. So having those 2 guys and then Kessler, who's a non-shooting threat, again, they're not going to beat you off the dribble very much besides George. Who plays the 2? It's not going to be Ace Bailey. They need another backcourt mate to go with Bailey. I guess that, I don't know. Again, I'm kind of sitting here. I don't mean to sound dumbfounded, but I just keep trying to find where this makes a lot of sense for the Jazz, and I'm just struggling at this point. And I think Jazz fans should at least feel hope that at least you're off the whole tanking train. Like, when you're on that train and you can't get off, it becomes like devastating. You're like, yo, when are we gonna finally try to freaking win some games? And I couldn't tell you when that was gonna happen, to be honest, at this point in time. So right now, Ace Bailey's been starting. Cody Williams has been starting a lot. Does he stay at the 2? Do you move Ace Bailey down to the 2? I don't think that he's a shooting guard in the NBA right now. I think he's a solid 3-man. Isaiah Collier, who's playing backup point. Does he step in the starting lineup? Bryce Sessaball is a pretty good offensive player. He maybe, to me, would slot in as that number 2. So that's probably, in my opinion, that's how I would do it. I would go George, Sensaball, And then you have no choice to try Marketing and Jackson and Walker Kessler. What I would be curious to see if they'd be open to, I have no idea if they'd be interested in this. I'd imagine Jaren Jackson would hate this. But I almost wonder, Jaren Jackson, if he'd be willing to play a Nas Reed role with this team. He's making a lot of money to be playing a Nas Reed role, but like he could still play up to 30 minutes playing this role. But if he could be that swing big the way Nas Reed is for the T-Wolves, where maybe he comes off the bench and he could come in for Kessler or come in for Markkanen, and he like those guys kind of rotate minutes. Markkanen is not going to play 35, 36 minutes a night, so he's going to have plenty of time to get time. I wonder if that's something I would do, because that way I can keep the front line the way it is. I keep Ace Bailey in the starting lineup. I could, keep Cody Williams, or you can go to Bryce Sensabaugh, but then I could have Jackson coming in as my first big, and he could play with Kessler. I think that's a good fit, just like Markkanen and Kessler have been a good fit together. And I think that you could probably steal some minutes with him and Markkanen. You can't play it a lot because he's a horrendous rebounder. Like he can't. That's why you can't play him at the 5 for an extended amount of time. He averages literally about 6 rebounds a game. It's just, you talk about Anthony Davis being allergic to wanting to play center. This guy has been really allergic to wanting to play center. He's 6'11". The way your rim protects, you're gonna have to steal some minutes of him at center. So I would wonder if maybe that's the route the Jazz will consider with Jaren Jackson. Overall, though, kind of a med deal for me. I was hoping for something a little more big, considering, again, they have had all these draft picks and they've been sitting on them all these years. They've taken a lot of the picks. They've drafted a lot of guys in the first round in the last few years, so they were probably running out of these extra picks that they had, and then this was being the big swing. Jazz don't necessarily have a situation where they're like one of the least, where they have the least amount of young talent. They're a nice little group. Is it a group that is that much better and that much different than the team they had when they had Mitchell and Gobert and that core that they blew up? I don't really see that. On the Grizzlies side, the Grizzlies, the teardown had to happen. I mean, their window for winning had closed completely. Ja Morant has been a malcontent. The team on the court has been inconsistent. They don't seem to have an identity. So they had to start moving some pieces. Jaren Jackson was going to net you the most assets, and to get 3 first-round picks in return is not nothing. That is a big deal, and I think that's a smart thing for the Grizzlies. Now you got multiple picks moving forward. You got ample cap flexibility. I think what you look at with the Grizzlies is you want to ensure that you're not on the same on that same hamster wheel that the Jazz were in, because the Jazz are a small market team. They decide, hey, we gotta make a trade to figure this thing out, because Donovan Mitchell and Gobert, that's not a core that's winning us anything. So they make the trade that they make, but they're unable to quickly get the kind of franchise young players that they thought they would be able to get because they would be tanking, partly because Lauri Markkanen has been too good for them to really get that bad. And then when they have been bad, they've gotten bad lottery luck. So now they're in a position where they're like, okay, let's see what we do from here and how we figure this thing out, and moving with Jackson. Grizzlies are going to be in the same spot. They're going to be bad for the next 2, 3, 4 years. This is the time to be bad because, again, you got this draft class coming up that is absolutely loaded. So you're going to want to be in that situation with those picks, and you want to have those guys, that flexibility available to you if you want to try to move up in one of these drafts and get one of the guys you want, or to have as many opportunities as possible to move up in the draft. So Grizzlies, a lot of good young players coming through the draft. They'll have opportunities to find their next franchise guys. Now the question becomes, what do they do with Ja Morant? Is a Ja Morant trade something that they could swing? It seems like he has, at this point, like negative trade value. It seems like nobody seems to have any legitimate interest in Ja Morant at this point in time. So what do you do? Are you able to give him away to somebody? Like, is that a reality? Is that something that's possible? Who wants Ja Morant? It's like that meme with the guy who does the "Who wants me" in the IG post, and it's like 100% say 0. I guess it was like a guy, I guess, trying to attract women on Instagram. He put up a poll, "Who wants me?" and 0% people put it up. That's kind of how it feels about Ja Morant right now. Like, it feels like if he could have been traded, he would have been traded by now. I just want to quickly, I know Jake Fisher had the compensation of the exact picks, so I'm just trying to see if I can race to his profile to see if he has that compensation. Okay, here we go. So the Utah Jazz are trading their most favorable first round pick, which is either going to be, so to be clear, it could be theirs in 2027, or Minnesota's, or Cleveland's. Given how those teams look, I would assume is going to be their own pick in 2027. But that's not this year's draft, so that is important. This year's draft is the one that's the super draft. You don't want to trade any picks, so they kept that out of there. So you have that. They trade the Lakers pick 2027 first round pick. I'd assume that's a later first round pick. Who's to say? Who knows? But I would assume Luka Doncic, the Lakers, even if they lose LeBron James, I don't expect they fall off the cliff. Then the Suns 2031 first round pick also will go to Memphis. That's the one that kind of would maybe scare me a little bit, because who the hell knows who the Suns are going to be in 5 years? Now, I'll say this, Danny Ainge, and he could be saying, hey, I'm going to retire by that point in time. But Danny Ainge, I don't think has like bad job security working for the Utah Jazz, considering he's a BYU legend. But so maybe he don't care about the 21-31 pick. But if he is somehow around, then the Phoenix Suns, let's say, right now they're a pretty good team. But if the Devin Booker thing doesn't go the way they hope, he eventually wants out, who would say the Suns aren't in a rebuild or tanking by 2031. That's 5 years from now. Again, who the hell knows? So that's 3 unprotected picks. One aspect of this that maybe is important to maybe at least discuss is Lowry Markkanen. Is it possible that he could be traded? I wonder if this year becomes like a trial balloon where they watch these guys play together for 2-3 months and see how this looks. If they end up looking as, I don't know if I say ragged, but again, I don't think they're going to get the return that they are expecting. If it doesn't come out as the fruitful return as they hope, do they say, okay, let's move Markkanen for, again, that shooting guard that I've been talking about that I think would be perfect next to Keontae George. So then we have Jackson playing the 4. He's a much better defender. And we could get another scoring guard to play the 2, and we can move Markkanen out of here. All things to consider and think about, but a huge trade in the NBA with Jaren Jackson getting moved from the Utah Jazz, from the Memphis Grizzlies. Now he goes to Utah Jazz. The Grizzlies get 3 first-round picks. Let's keep the ball rolling. Another 2-time All-Star also on the move today. This one, Nikola Vucevic. He was traded from the Chicago Bulls to the Boston Celtics. So the Celtics find their stretch 5, acquiring the 2-time All-Star in a deal that will send Anthony Simons and a second-round pick to the Chicago Bulls. So the Celtics this year have essentially been trying to hold on for dear life at the center position. They've been starting Nehemias Queta, who was a draft favorite of mine, by the way. If you are an OG to New Generation Media and you watch, we have a very large archive of draft takes and draft content, because this was not a draft channel, but it was definitely one of the big elements, and has been a big element of our YouTube channel. You'll know that Nehemias Queta was one of the guys I had actually targeted in that draft. I guess I was mad now, like 2-3 years ago. No, it had to be more than 2. It had to be at least 3, maybe even 4 years ago. It's a guy that I targeted, someone I thought was a sleeper, and he's played really well for the Celtics this year. He's athletic, he can block shots, he can run the floor, he can finish at the rim. So he's athletic. I might have said that again. But he's been starting. They also play Luka guards at the 5. The Celtics now, because of how well they've played, they're tied for the second best record in the Eastern Conference with the New York Knicks. There's no reason to believe for the Celtics. They feel like, let's see how far we can push this thing. Like, we definitely needed a center. We knew we were going to have to ship Simons out for somebody that could play the 5. And you get Nikola Vucevic, who is a little older. A little is maybe being generous. He's 35 years old. So you're trading a young guy for an older guy, but Vucevic fits well. And Vucevic is still playing at a high level offensively. He's averaging 17 points a game. He's shooting 50% from the field. He's shooting about 38% from 3. So he's been a true stretch 5. And we know with that Celtic offense how dangerous they are when they have that stretch 5. We've seen when Porzingis was playing at a high level how it seemed like unbeatable they were. When Al Horford was playing at a high level, you saw how dangerous they were. When they have that guy that can stretch the floor at the 5 position, and they could play that true 5 out and allow, they don't have Tatum right now. They could allow Brown to really boogie in isolation. They could allow White to get into the paint and cause havoc. That's when they're most dangerous. That's when their offense is truly can become scary. The Celtics have taken a lot less threes this year because their team just didn't have the horses. They didn't have the personnel to kind of run the typical systems that Joe Mazzulla likes to run. This trade may allow them to go back to that. And I saw Jonathan Macri retweeted something. I think his name was like Stacks NBA. He retweeted a stat from years ago, but the stat that still holds. teams that have stretch offensive fives, their offensive rating in the NBA playoffs is significantly better than those teams who do not. It's just a reality. So if you don't have a 5-man that can stretch the floor, typically you're at disadvantage. Now, unless that 5-man could be like Mitchell Robinson, where he's a destroyer on the offensive glass, where he gets you the offensive possession, maybe that changes. But for a lot of teams, it's a massive plus to have a 5-man who can stretch the floor come playoff time, and the Celtics will be playing in the playoffs. So Vucevic makes sense for them. He also makes sense for them as a potential re-sign guy. Like, he's a free agent this year. They have his bird rights now. So we'll see what his market is in the offseason. But if I'm the Celtics, he's a piece that would make sense. Right now, they save about $20 million in luxury tax payments this year, which we remembered a lot of their tear down, get rid of Porzingis and Holiday. Some of the trades they made was in part to get out of some of that luxury tax hell that they were in. You know, Vucevic, older player, I don't expect to get a massive contract as he's nearing kind of the end of his career. He may be a guy they'd be able to re-sign at a bargain deal, especially if he has the opportunity to potentially win a championship playing for the Boston Celtics. So, as a Knicks fan, I don't have to take ownership, or I don't love saying this, but I think this was a good move for the Boston Celtics. Now, the only thing about Vucevic compared to the other guys they've had at stretch 5 is he is not the defensive player that Porzingis was or Al Horford was. So that is the one kind of negative in this move. Is say, okay, the Celtics are back to what they used to do. Well, what made those guys so good was they also were so great defensively. Al Horford has always been a great defender. Porzingis, when he's healthy and he's playing well, is a game-changing defensive player. Vucevic is not. Vucevic is not a rim protector, not all that great defensively. He's not like a complete sieve, but he's a big step down from what they've had in the past. He will be a big step down from Nehemiah Queta, who was starting. So that will be the thing to look for the Celtics, is how do they defend with Vucevic out there. But offensively, they definitely took a step up with this move. And then on the Bulls side, and we'll get to more Bulls stuff because we got to talk about another trade that they made. They add Simon to a backcourt that's now become crowded. It has Jaden Ivey, who we'll talk about in a second. It may have Mike Conley, though I think he may get bought out. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. Let's say, okay, we're moving forward with Simons and Ivey. Could you convince me that is a higher upside than what they have now with Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White? You can talk me into that, yes. I mean, Simons is a guy who is a 20-point scorer, potential kind of guy in this league. And Jaden Ivey, while he's kind of in a weird role in a weird team that is no longer kind of prioritizing his development, they're trying to now win a championship because Detroit has taken a massive super leap when it comes to their development as a program and as a team. This guy was a former top 5 pick. And I think has athleticism, has game. Like, there's no reason why I think he still can't be good. It's just that spot is not going to be a spot for him to become whatever player he wants to become, or that you think he can become. Could you talk me into saying that they have more upside with these guys? Yes, you can. Am I convinced that these guys are better than the guys they have? No, I cannot tell you I'm convinced. Now, Kobe White is going to be a free agent, so it could be a reality that they just look at a guy who's making $14 million this year and say he's going to get a raise. He's played well. We don't want to pay him that. Let's find somebody else who we may be more willing to pay in Anthony Simons and give him a look. Totally fine. I could see that. Ayo Dosunmu, who I like. I mean, he defends. He's a pretty good offensive player. Like, he's young. Again, I guess he's another guy in theory. I want to see what Dosunmu's contract is before I just say something out of my booty. But, I mean, Dosunmu's contract, he may be a guy, I guess, in theory. So, yeah, he's also on a contract here. So, that comes with this conversation, is these are guys that they feel like are going to get paid potentially this offseason. They're like, let's send them away. Let's get some new guys in here. Let's give these guys a look. Maybe we want to re-sign these guys. They've had Dosunmu and Kobe White for a while now. They haven't won much. I guess that's why. Am I convinced this is a big upgrade for the Bulls? No, but I think this is one of those, let's change the furniture of the house and see if the house looks any better. Sometimes it works. You never know. Other times, though, you just change the furniture and the foundation of the house is still effed up. The ceiling's still leaking. There's still other issues that changing the furniture didn't change much. So that's going to be the conversation with the Bulls. But let's continue that conversation because, again, they also made a big move today and a massive 3-team deal that has Giannis implications. So the Bulls, like I just mentioned, they traded for Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley. They are headed to Chicago in a 3-team deal. That deal will send Kevin Huerter and a 2026 Minnesota Timberwolves pick swap. That's a first-round pick swap to the Pistons. The Minnesota Timberwolves are just receiving cash. They are not receiving any players in this trade. So let's break this one down. So let's go to the Pistons because we've talked a little bit about the Bulls. So the Pistons have been eyeing floor spacing. That has been the one thing they've been missing. That's one thing they felt they were missing last year, and they were trying to add that this offseason. The Malik Beasley thing completely blew up because he has the gambling investigation. He still is not on the team. He's still not on any team at this point. They did bring in Duncan Robinson to help with that, but they're still a team that lacks some shooting. So Kevin Huerter, I think, is supposed to answer that. The problem I would have with Kevin Huerter is he is someone that is shooting a career worst 31% from three-point line this year. So is that a true floor spacer if he is shooting the ball so poorly? Kevin Huerter has good shooting ability. I've seen this guy make shots. He was a great shooter in college. He's been a good shooter in the NBA. I have no idea what the hell is wrong with him and why he's shooting so poorly. Forgive me, I've not been locked into both basketball in that way to know if there's an injury or something happening. I've just seen his stats and watched box scores, and just the little I've seen from the Bulls when I've watched them play. They played the next couple of times. I'm like, man, he is struggling. That's been clear. Change of scenery maybe could be all you need. And now you play on a team that, maybe turbo boosts your confidence because you're playing on a team that's, again, competing for something larger than just the Bulls, who are a perpetual playing team. You're actually fighting to try to, secure the number one seed in the Eastern Conference and hopefully get to the NBA Finals. Maybe that unlocks a Huerter shooting ability in a way. Maybe they see something in the tape that they could maybe unlock, and they see something in why his shot's been so off. But he's not shot the ball well. So Ivey's actually shot the ball better from three, which is, again, he's not a three-point shooter, to be clear, but it's crazy how much Huerter struggled from behind the arc. So that's the Pistons side of this. Again, the Bulls side, they add another young guard in Ivey. I have to think that Conley will be a buyout option. The initial reporting, people have mentioned it, but I haven't seen the actual report that came out and said, yes, the Bulls are expecting to buy out Conley. I haven't seen that yet. If you've seen that, then apologies. I haven't seen that quite yet. So at this point in time, I think you're looking at Chicago probably buying out Conley, even if we haven't heard that yet. And then that opens up the floodgates of where would Conley go, what teams will be available. I think if you're a New York Knicks fan like myself or you're a Knicks observer, I think you have to definitely look at Mike Conley as someone who could be an option for them. But Mike Conley, as I saw someone post today, one of the reporters who've been covering and made the NBA trade deadline this week, is that Mike Conley is the kind of veteran guy and locker room guy that everybody's going to want. So if he's truly going to be on the market, I would expect every team to want him. Now, Conley, he's near the end. I want to be clear. I don't want to say that he's completely washed, but he's getting close. Conley's 38 years old at this point. He is taking a true back step in terms of his role on the Grizzlies. He's only playing 18 minutes a night. He is playing, but he's only shooting 32% in the field, 32% from three. He's lost his starting spot, obviously. So I don't think that Conley's coming in and saving anybody. But if there's a situation where if you're the Knicks or you're one of these other teams, you can't get one of these higher and younger guards, maybe you'll go after a guy like Mike Conley, who's a veteran, and see if he could help a team. So that's something to look for the Chicago Bulls. Now let's get to the T-Wolves. According to ESPN, again, the T-Wolves, they make this trade in hopes of freeing up money and a roster spot in a potential Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. According to ESPN today, I think Daily Wolves had posted this. Now, I didn't see this, so I can't say for sure that I hate kind of even saying this, but I didn't see the clip, but this was aggregated from Daily Wolves from NBA Today, so I'm hoping that they are not BSing here. But the reporting that I've seen didn't get circulated by other people that were quoting them is that apparently the T-Wolves in this trade could have got Kobe White if they wanted to, and didn't because they are freeing up a spot potentially for Giannis Antetokounmpo and whatever trade comes with that. The T-Wolves are definitely operating like a team that thinks they have a real shot at Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I think you have to start to take the odds of him getting traded to be real if they're willing to forego the opportunity to acquire what I think would be a very good piece for them. They could have got Kobe White out and been like, man, that's a really good trade. They are desperately needing a point guard. I know Kobe White's kind of a scoring guard, but I think he seems like the kind of guy, first of all, he's an irrational confidence guy, as Bill Simmons says, that would kind of scare me in the playoffs. He seems like the kind of guy that also is kind of been waiting for that moment to play a bigger role on a better team in a bigger spot. as a kind of a microwave scorer. He kind of reminds me of Jason Terry when I watch him play. I'm a big Kobe White guy. Is he the greatest defender? No. Is he a natural point guard? What is a natural point guard today? But arguably no. But the guy can run a team. The guy is a bucket, and he's a big shot maker. So I've been a fan of Kobe White for a little while now. I've kind of been eyeing him as a guy that I would like the Knicks to maybe pursue, and now I think that he's definitely going to get traded. There's no way he's going to be, I think, on this team that has a million guards. Some of these guys got to go. So I'm curious to see where that lands. But the fact that the T-Wolves decided not to bring him on tells me that they may have a real shot at this thing. The Bucks may actually be really motivated to move on from Giannis by this trade deadline. We'll talk about another team that's apparently circling the water for Giannis Antetokounmpo in a second. But I think the T-Wolves moving in this way really kind of makes me go, maybe this is something that actually could happen, especially considering it's surprising because they started with early report from Jake Fisher this morning that it seemed like it was more likely that Giannis would stay with the Bucks past the deadline than it was likely he would be traded. That doesn't mean it won't happen. The Bucks, the T-Wolves could purely be moving away where they're saying we don't want to put ourselves in any position where a Giannis trade is possible and we screwed it up because Kobe White. We brought in Kobe White. I could see that definitely being part of why this is happening, but I think it is important to know that is one of the things to keep an eye on when it comes to what's happening with the Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes, that this trade that was made was purely because the T-Wolves are operating in an environment where they are actively pursuing Giannis Antetokounmpo, and acquiring Kobe White would have somehow effed that up, so they didn't do it. So that's something to note. Yeah, in terms of, again, the Bulls and Pistons, can Kevin Huerter find his jumper? That kind of determines, I think, whether or not this is a good move. I get moving on from Ivy, given kind of where they are and his fit on that team and kind of where they're moving. But they needed floor spacing, but is he going to be able to shoot? If he's not going to shoot at a high level, then this is not going to work out. Now, Huerter, to me, in many ways, is very reminiscent of Duncan Robinson, and both of those guys are trying to fill this like Malik Beasley role that they're missing. The problem, though, is Malik Beasley comes with a level of toughness and a level of grit that those guys don't necessarily bring. I kind of wonder if these guys are going to be missed. Now, to be clear, the Pistons have been way better than they were last year, so I don't want to make it seem like Malik Beasley is like, Klay Thompson. But he does bring some intangibles and things and nastiness to a team that I think is useful in the playoffs. He was a thorn in the Knicks' side for a couple of those games, and as he started running his mouth off towards the end of the series, then he started struggling because maybe, as Jared Allen famously said, the lights were too bright. But I do think he's the kind of guy that you want in a foxhole in the playoff series, in theory, more so than a Duncan Robinson and a Kevin Huerter. So I'm curious those guys can effectively fill that Beasley role come playoff time. So that'll be interesting to follow. But again, I asked a question for the Bulls. Ivy and Simons is a massive upgrade over White and DeSumo. I can't say that's a massive upgrade. Is it a higher ceiling? Sure. You could talk me into that. Massive upgrade? I don't know. They'll get a look at these guys as they kind of push to see if they could make the playoffs here. And it seems going to be weird to me also with the fit with Ivy next to, I'm thinking about it even more, Ivy next to Giddey. Giddey shot the ball as good as he's probably shot his entire career this year, but Josh Giddey is never going to be a shooter. And Jaden Ivey, again, also similarly, shot the ball as good as he's shot in his entire career, but once again, similarly, I wouldn't consider him a shooter. For a guy like Giddey, I think I'd want shooters around the court to space the floor, and a backcourt mate who I look at as a kind of like a sniper. It's kind of why I think he's played well with Kobe White in the last 2 years they played together. Is that really Jaden Ivey? I don't really see that. Now, Ivy, when he's going and he can get downhill, like he is a terror getting to the rim at times, and maybe they're looking at just like he just has more potential than the guys that they have, and that's why they're moving on. But that'd be the one thing I noticed. What is that fit with him and Josh Giddey, who has become really the star player for the Bulls this year? He was a guy who I thought could have made the All-Star game. This year, Giddey averaging 18 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, almost near averaging a triple-double. He's been the Bulls' engine. If you're going to move forward with him as the engine, I want guys that fit him as neatly as possible. I'm not sure if the fit is as neat, but I think they're looking at what they hope is maybe some star potential that may still be unrealized for Jaden Ivey. So interesting trade day. And it got more interesting. We got more details coming out of Golden State, where it seems like the Warriors are definitely open to trading Draymond Green. So multiple reports, including ESPN, are saying that the Warriors are indeed showing willingness to move on from the 14-year vet and 4-time NBA champion Draymond Green as part of their pursuit for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Warriors are willing to include either Jimmy Butler's massive $56 million salary in the trade or Green's $27 million in the trade to make a deal happen for Giannis. Now, because Green is healthy, Butler unfortunately tore his ACL a couple of weeks ago. The Bucks, according to ESPN report, I think his name is, I want to say his name is Andrew Slater. Apologies, that's not his name, but I know his last name is Slater. He was saying that the Bucks look at Green as the more attractive piece because they don't really want either of these guys, but if they want to redirect one of them, Green apparently is a guy that's easier to redirect because he is playable. He's a guy that can actually play on a team this year, whereas Jimmy Butler will not only not play on a team this year, he won't play on a team probably for a lot of next year as well because of when he got injured. So Green could be seeing his last days in Golden State, and this is in part because the Warriors are aggressively pursuing Draymond Green. Again, going back to what I said with the whole Timberwolves situation, that if the Warriors are willing to put Draymond Green in trade talks, and they're not really hiding it, like Steve Kerr's comments yesterday basically was like, yeah, I mean, this is the first time Draymond's had to deal with this in his career during the season, and I think it is on his mind. I'm like, he's basically saying that it's true that we might get him out of here if we can get Giannis Antetokounmpo. So he kind of confirmed that already. I know Draymond tried to downplay it, saying that he didn't lose sleep and it's a business. And at the end of the day, if he's here, he would love to stay with the Warriors. If he isn't, he'll move on and it'll be okay. So the one thing I'll say about the Warriors situation is, I mean, if you have to trade Draymond to get Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's a no-brainer. It's not even a conversation. I know we're in the world where it's like, should a guy like Draymond Green, should he retire a Warrior? I shrug. In theory, he probably should. Gabos, game made based on sympathy. This is kind of, again, the business of the NBA and where the team is at this point in time, where they are cooked, currently constituted. They have no shot to win a playoff round, I believe, without Jimmy Butler this season. So they're kind of just mired in mediocrity. The only shot they have to kind of save this season and maybe save something for the rest of Stephen Curry's time with the Warriors is to make some kind of massive swing like this movie Giannis Antetokounmpo. So from their side, from a basketball standpoint purely, I get it. The only other standpoint that I look at and I pause to is if you cannot pull this trade, and if it does not happen, if it turns out that the Bucks are kind of just playing footsie with these teams, but in reality they want to wait until the offseason, they prefer to do that. If that is the case, you're playing with fire dangling Draymond Green out in trade talks in such a public way, because who knows how that guy's going to respond to this. He flies off the handle. He can be unstable. So we've seen him not handle adversity at times well. There are times that he's handled adversity extremely well. You can't be a champion 4 times and not handle adversity well. But he is someone that we know, wrong guy says wrong thing to him at the wrong time, he could swing on him. He don't like Kevin Durant and rumors about he wants to leave. He'll blow up the entire team in a heated moment during a game early in October. Like, that's just who Draymond Green is. So if you're going to play this game, we're saying, yeah, we may trade you, buddy. It's one of those things where, man, if you shoot at the king, you best not miss. Like, if you're saying we're going to get Draymond out of here, like, you better get his ass out of here. It almost kind of reminds me, it's very different, but kind of, and I've not watched all of Succession, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I'm a Succession, I know everything, because I stopped, and I didn't get back to it, but I probably stopped somewhere, I think in season 3, maybe season 2, wherever it was. But either way, it kind of reminds me of Succession when, of course, spoilers, apologies, but when, Kendall tries to do his hostile takeover and it doesn't work because, he can't, some people can't go through with it. And it's like, you tried to get, the old dude out and it didn't work. And now he fires everybody. Now he's in charge again. And you swung at you shot at the king and you missed. Now your life is over. Your career is over. Your whole livelihood is changed because you take a shot and you didn't have it locked down. That's kind of how I feel about Draymond. It's like, if you're going to dangle him in a trade rumor, I would not want to deal with that guy on the other side of the trade deadline. You're on a team that's already teetering. You're on a team that is kind of in a no man's land situation. Who knows if the coach is back next year? It sounds like he won't be. Who the hell knows how Draymond Green's going to handle the rest of the season? I wouldn't want to be around that guy, knowing that I tried to trade him. I wouldn't want. He's somebody that is. I don't. He says, "Oh, I'm a professional. I'm gonna take it like whatever." I don't believe him. I don't believe him. I've seen Draymond Green's act too much to know that is not how this is going to go down. So that would be my caution for the Warriors. If you are dangling Draymond Green, you better actually be able to trade him. Because if you're not going to trade him, he runs hot and cold. Next year, 2 years ago, he forget about this and be, I love the Warriors and everything. Probably. That's kind of how he is. But he's going to be, I think, very unpleasant to deal with in the short term. That would be my prediction for the Warriors. That'd be the one thing I would caution for the Warriors in dangling Draymond Green out there in trade rumors. But whew, this was a day when it comes to the NBA trade deadline. Again, I don't believe anything else is broken. I keep having to look at my phone, look at social media, because I didn't, again, we're 2 days away. Typically, maybe the night prior to the deadline, you start to see some moves. Maybe there'll be kind of like a one-off trade a couple of days before. I don't, never would have expected that you'd have 3 trades. 3, and again, not like scrubs, like pretty good players, former All-Stars, that were moved in this day. I never would have imagined that was going to be the case today. And the fact that 3 trades happened and none of them were James Harden, also something I never would have thought today. The whole James Harden thing, just to kind of, before I even move on, that whole thing is still weird because it feels like this open secret that he eventually will be traded to the Cavs. And I saw something along the lines of someone was saying that, Darius Garland is operating as if he's a Clipper and James Harden is operating as if he's going to be a Cav. Then why isn't the deal done already? Like, what are we waiting for? Like, are one of these teams waiting around because they are hoping they can get Giannis? And what's interesting about that is we did see that apparently the Cavs, they apparently did actually reach out and say, hey, Giannis, is this possible? It's something we can get done. They apparently did talk to Milwaukee about that. I don't know where those talks went, but it did happen. This was actually the quote I'm seeing here. This was from Brian Windhorst. Again, this has been his day today. He said, there's real momentum for this. Darius Garland's getting in his head he's going to be a Clipper. James Harden's getting in his head that he's going to be a Cav. That is how Brian Windhorst put it. And that's important because James Harden would have then agreed and signed on the fact that he's willing to play for the Cavaliers. Because, like I said earlier today, when we talked about this earlier, James Harden kind of has a pseudo no-trade clause. Because he's a player on a one-year deal, he can't, in the structure of his contract, he can't just be traded anywhere. Technically, he's on a 2-year deal, but it's a player option for next year. So you can't just trade him anywhere you want. He has to co-sign on any trade. So I heard about this Cavs deal, and I was like, okay, there's advanced talks, but is there a trade happening? Like, what's going on? And then it didn't happen. I paused and I wonder, like, is James Harden, like, contemplating still if he wants to go to Cleveland? Like, what's holding this thing up? If Brian Windhorst is right and he's saying that James Harden is operating that he's a Cav, then I once again say, why the hell isn't it trade? How were 3 trades already done and this one wasn't? Like, that's the thing I'm trying to figure out is where is this thing going? Chad, if you have anything to say on these trades, get in the chat again on YouTube, get in the comment section on X, comment section, IG comment section, whoever's watching. Definitely feel free to chime in and tell me what you think about what's going on with this situation with James Harden. Is apparently, again, Cavs remain in advanced talks with the Clippers. We're approaching close to 24 hours since this news was announced. It was announced like kind of late last night, and it's now 7 p.m. Eastern time, and there's still no trade. So, we'll see if something ends up shaking up for now. But as of right now, we've had nothing on my phone about anything regarding a trade. So, we'll have to see what comes down with that. But very fascinating stuff going on with the NBA trade deadline. And again, I get the impression that this is a precursor for other big things to happen. I don't think that we're done. I think that now, especially now, we're starting to see teams show their hands on what they want to do. Now you're going to have to see other teams and how they pivot and how they respond given the market shaking out the way it shakes out. So trade deadline's Thursday. Of course, I'll be live at 8 a.m. prior to the trade deadline. I'll be live at 6 p.m. Trade deadline would have been done, and we would have had all the moves that happened. So I'm sure there'll be so much to get to when it comes to NBA trade deadline later in the week. But let's keep the ball rolling, man. Let's talk, unfortunately, about my New York Jets because the Mad King has struck yet again. So, this was reported by my good friend and colleague at WFAN, Sean Morash, that Jets owner Woody Johnson has been meddling in the Jets offseason coaching searches and coaching hires for the staffers, and that the Jets were unable to close a deal with former Giants and Michigan Wolverines defensive coordinator Wink Martindale because Woody Johnson's insistence that Aaron Glenn called the plays. I don't want to say any more because I want to allow Sean Morash to speak for himself. Here is WFAN Sean Morash on what he has heard about the Jet situation and Woody Johnson.
Aaron Glenn did come to an agreement with Wink Martindale, and Aaron Glenn was under the impression he had free reign to hire his coaches. Aaron Glenn let his coaching staff know, hey, you're free to seek other opportunities, as we had read about, and all of a sudden a month changed and everybody got fired. And we're like, well, what the hell happened? Does Aaron Glenn not know what he was doing? Aaron Glenn told those guys, hey, listen, go seek other opportunities. I'm going to try to limit the shakeups here. We're going to hire a real defensive coordinator. We're going to get this thing rolling. When he flew down to Florida to meet with Woody Johnson to get him signing on the dotted line on how much he needed to pay Wink Martindale, Woody Johnson looked Aaron Glenn dead in the eyes and said, I'm paying you $12 million. You're coaching the defense. We're not hiring a defensive coordinator when that is your background. And Aaron Glenn had to turn around on top of it. I'll get to the other coaches in a second. Fly back up and tell Wink Martindale, sorry, Wink, it's not happening. Wow. I got to call the defense.
Whoa. So, the Mad King himself, that's what I've called Woody Johnson for the last few years, and because he is the Mad King. The Mad King is behind much of this Jets chaos that we've seen, especially when it comes to the defensive side. I think the offensive side, maybe that's another side to this, but this is a peek into maybe something that we didn't foresee as to why there's been so much chaos when it comes to the Jets coaching situation. So you heard it there from Sean. He has that reporting that Aaron Glenn spoke to Woody Johnson and said, I got a defense coordinator I like. This is what it's going to cost to pay him. And it sounds like Woody Johnson says he's told him to go to hell. When will it end? When will it end? Woody Johnson, we don't want you here. Nobody likes you. Nobody thinks you've done a good job. And besides just enriching your already uberly rich pockets, why are you doing this if you're going to be continuing to be such a miserable dude and a miserable person to work with and such a curmudgeon and continue to insert yourself in football operations and football details which you know nothing about? Why do you continue to do this and humiliate yourself and humiliate your family and humiliate this organization to this level? Why are you still here? What are you doing this for? Why? So you had a miserable year last year, and your rookie head coach was obviously flailing all year, and he struggled. And he decides, I'm going to try to potentially rewrite this ship, and I got to tweak some things. And I think in order to do that, I want to hire a defensive coordinator. I got my eye on a guy who's a veteran guy. This is the man that you hired, that you trusted to turn this Jets thing around. You hired Aaron Glenn. I didn't hire Aaron Glenn. You hired him to make these decisions. You hired him to be the head of your head coaching staff. He comes to you and says, I need this assistance from this man in order for us to get over the hump and turn this thing around. And you just ignore him? You tell him, no, you got to call the defense because I'm not paying you $12 million not to call the defense? What the hell is wrong with you? What is wrong with you, bro? Like, at a certain point, it becomes like are you doing this just to now spite the people that already know you suck as an owner? What point are you trying to prove at this point? You're only bringing pain and misery and suffering to Jets fans and, quite frankly, to the people that are working for you. I know you say, well, I'm paying them $12 million, so they're rich, so who the hell they care? Yeah, but they take pride in their work, unlike your sorry ass. You don't take pride in nothing. You don't take pride in this organization that's been a disaster and a disgrace and an absolute clown show for 15 years. You don't take pride in the business practices of your organization due to all the leaks, all of the mess, all the nonsense we dealt with under your leadership. You take pride in nothing. You take pride in being a London ambassador. You take pride in the Brits. That's all you take pride in. You don't take pride in the Jets. You don't take pride in the gangrene. You don't take pride in New York City. You don't take pride in Jersey. You take no pride in anything. Why are you still here? Sell the damn team. You're a billionaire. You can't afford to hire a defensive coordinator? What the hell is this? I mean, I heard this and I realized I'm never going to see the Jets succeed with this guy as owner. And I know you're saying Captain Obvious, EJ. Everybody knew that. But, okay, that was a gee whiz EJ moment where I thought maybe at some point Woody will say, I've tried to meddle, I've done all this meddling, it's not working, I'm just going to give it to somebody and just step aside. We saw James Dolan do that. Even Dolan realized at a certain point, I got to get out the way. I got to just give it to somebody and just let them either fix it or screw it up. I can't keep meddling because I only seem to make things worse. Even he got it. You can't get it through your head 15 freaking years of this BS? How much longer we got to deal with this? I mean, this is disgusting. This is a disgrace. The Jets are in a position where I know nothing can actually be done, and there's no reason why the NFL owners would want to help the Jets in any way. But they actually really need the NFL to almost step in and be like, yo, what the hell is going on over here? You're not a competent NFL organization on any level, and your owner is a madman. Madman owner. Either get your act together, or we're going to get your ass out of here. We can't afford to have, it's bad enough the other New York team is a joke too, but at least they have some pedigree, at least they have some integrity. You have no integrity with how you run this organization. And there's not only so much they can do, unless we could find some bad email somewhere or some lawsuits that had to be settled. Unless something like that happens, I guess nothing to do. That's the only way they got rid of Dan Snyder. We saw what happened in the NBA with Donald Sterling. But this is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And shout out to Sean Morash. I tried to get him on the show today. I talked to Sean a little bit today. He's busy today. There's a hope that we can get him on soon. Maybe it'll be tomorrow. Maybe it'll be another time. At some point, Sean's the man, and he's been super nice to me. I'm hopeful to have him on at some point during these 40 days, just because he's one of the people when I started 40 Days, 40 Nights that I had on my brain as someone I wanted to have on. We've got some other guests that are coming up that I've talked to this week that I'm really excited about. So we got some fun guests coming for this week and next week. So unfortunately, I would love to have asked Sean some of these questions that I'm asking Woody Johnson proverbially through this camera. But, I mean, you're an embarrassment, bro. I guess when you make that much money, you could just walk around with no shame with your dumbass chain like you're a somebody. You're a nobody when it comes to NFL ownership and NFL team building and NFL management. Everyone looks at you and points and laughs. And now this fan base that's already suffered through enough has to now also be the butt of the jokes that you're the butt of, because just through osmosis. Come on, man. This was, and I'll be honest, I would like to learn more about what happened with the Angstrom thing. That still seems odd, but now I heard this. Who knows why the hell Tanner Angstrom was fired? I have no idea. And again, if I'm not mistaken, there's a lot that came out of this Sean report. I want to get to Darren Moody in a second. I think Sean may have said something along the lines that, Glenn was trying to tell him that, I think Woody also wanted him to get a new offensive coordinator, so he wouldn't fire him. He wouldn't allow him to get Wink Martindale, but he didn't want him to keep Angstrom. That's kind of how I read it, if I remember that correctly. I want to see if I can get that right. I'm just searching this real quick, so I don't want to be giving y'all no crazy information. But let's see here. I'm going to search this and let's see if they got any Angstrom stuff here in this Jet Press article here. I don't see it here. But, I mean, you can kind of read the tea leaves, though, where this is going. We've wondered why the Jet offseason has been so completely outrageous. And now this seems to make a lot of sense. it makes sense why. Yeah, and Sean did say that he also was part of the Angstrom situation and the call to move to Frank Wright. So you won't let him hire defensive coordinator, and you tell him to fire the guy that's here. And I think, if I remember correctly, Aaron Glenn was trying to tell Woody that we had a quarterback problem. It wasn't a coordinator problem, which is what everyone said. Anybody, why is it that Joe from Syosset can call me on the fan at 3 a.m. in the morning and know that it's this freaking terrible quarterback situation and not Tyler Angstrom's fault that the offense was bad, and this idiot owner doesn't? How is that possible? How does it make any sense? It doesn't. It's like every day is opposite day with Woody Johnson. Whatever the Jets should do, he always says, I'm going to do the freaking opposite just because it's opposite day. It's never going to happen with this team. It's never going to happen with this team, with this guy around. I don't know what's going to take for him to sell this team. Owning an NFL team is like, I can't even, it's priceless. It's literally priceless. So that's why no one really sells unless you just like, or like, I've made enough money, I just don't want to do this anymore. Even those people don't want to do anymore, still just keep the team for the sake of keeping the team. Like, it's so I have no idea how this nightmare ends, but this is a nightmare, and I don't see the end of this at all. And I'm someone, again, who's optimistic, but I heard this today. I know some people are shooting at Sean, trying to say, oh, maybe this is wrong. I don't. Sean, someone's telling this to Sean. He ain't making this crap up. He's not doing that. And they're saying, oh, well, Muji wasn't at the Senior Bowl. I know Sean had mentioned that. No, let's get to Muji in a second. That Darren Muji apparently also has been going around telling folks, this job ain't it. This is not a place you want to work at, in part because Woody Johnson is here, and I regret taking this job. That is apparently what he's been telling people. Sean made a comment that he's been telling people at things like the Senior Bowl and such. And there's been reporting, or at least, I don't know if it's been reporting. It's been people online. I don't know what to make of that. But like blog type folks, other content creators, no disrespect to them, but it hasn't been like a legacy media or super reputable type person. But people I've seen saying, oh, Muji wasn't at the Senior Bowl this week. Which seemed kind of weird, but maybe it's true. I don't know. What I always tell folks when it comes to reporting, again, people don't make stuff up. Sean says, okay, it was Senior Bowl. He was going around people around the Senior Bowl. The word was on the Senior Bowl. There are other All-Star games that have already happened, that are happening, and that have been going on. Like, there's a chance that he could have been at other scouting events talking to other people. So Sean said something like Senior Bowl, but maybe it was the Shrine Bowl or one of these other things. I wouldn't harp on, oh, it's untrue because he wasn't at the Senior Bowl. Okay, maybe there's a detail that got like flubbed somewhere, but I don't think I find it hard to believe the impetus that like this is getting out there and there's just no truth to it at all. Somebody's saying this for a reason. I have no idea why. But the fact that this got to Sean Morash at this point in time tells me just how nasty things are right now for the Jets. It is. We had my guy Fleegs on last week, man. He said that we thought we've seen rock bottom, but things may have never been as bleak as they are currently at one Jets drive. And I said, man, that's crazy. It's hard. And I said, listen, I hold on to the fact that they still have those draft picks, and that's kind of my saving grace. I don't even know if that's saving grace at this point. I really don't. Like, who's to say that Darren Muji won't identify the right draft picks and like Woody Johnson will steal the phone from him and call in some guy that he likes number just because he wants that guy to be drafted as Jet. Who knows? This is a disgrace. This is pathetic. Woody Johnson, have you no shame? Have you no shame? Do you continue to like being a laughingstock? Do you continue to like being the butt of every NFL joke? Do you continue to like dragging the millions and millions of Jets fans that are in this area that are worldwide, dragging them through your mud because of your incompetence? You like this? Does this amuse you? Why are we going through this with you? You're not good at this. You've never been good at this. Give it up already. Sell the damn team. And the funny thing about this, before I move on, is when it comes to Woody, and the Glenn situation. On the surface, I kind of like agree with the take that like Aaron Glenn should probably call the defense. I've said it before. Like I said that I thought one of the mistakes Aaron Glenn made coming in was that he didn't initially call the defense because he said I'm gonna come in and be CEO head coach with no CEO and head coach experience, and realized he was terrible at that. So my thought process was, man, he should have came in and said, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm good at. I can call a pretty good defense. I'll call the defense and hire again a guy like Steve Wilkes should have been like a guy who was like your assistant head coach who was kind of going to help you with game situational football and game decisions and things like that. Clock management. That's how I kind of thought he should have did this. And say he did it backwards. He had Steve Wilkes, who's not the greatest defensive play caller, calling defensive plays, and he was trying to do CEO head coach stuff, and he was really bad at CEO head coach stuff. Like clock management, keeping the team prepared, messaging, all those things. Role should have flipped there. But again, like your coach, you're in Florida. You're not even at the freaking facility. Like the coach is going this far down the line where he's talked to people and he feels like Wink Martindale, who is a respected defensive coach. I'm not going to tell you he's Buddy Ryan, but he's a respected defensive coach. He gets down the line where he's like, all right, everything's all set to go. Like you told me I could change the staff, and I decided that Wink Martindale's my guy, and that's what I want to do. And then that's when you say, actually, no, you're going to call a defense. Aaron Glenn if he didn't come into this offseason prepared to call a defense, then he shouldn't be preparing to call the defense. That's the bottom line. Whether I think he should or not, whether you think he should or not, that's not what was part of this plan. That's not how he saw the vision of this team. You entrusted him with this squad. If you don't think that he's going to make the right decisions in terms of how the coaching staff's put together, then fire him and put in somebody else. Or you coach the damn team. What are we freaking doing here, man? Even when Woody has a point, he's still 1,000% off base with how he goes about it. You can't make it up, man. Can't make it up. So I don't know what to make at this point. The GM thinks he's a dead man walking, even though he's done a phenomenal job. The coach, we know, is a dead man walking, and now is being thrusted into doing a role that he did not want to do when he already was overwhelmed with trying to coach last year. Now word's getting out there that the Jets are a toxic place that no one should ever want to go play or work for at all. I mean, what are we gonna do now? This is sick stuff happening at One Jets Drive at this point. Let's move on, man. Let's talk about the other New York team. They made a big coaching hire. We talked about it earlier today. Giants hire Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy as their new offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy's contract expired with the Chiefs. I'm still not 100% sure what's going on with that. Like why they just didn't try to re-sign him. I know he was going for head coaching jobs. In theory, you could have signed him, but then still said, hey, like if you get a head coaching job, we'll find somebody else. I don't know if they didn't want to wait because they liked Airbnb. I don't know. Like it's being, and Andy Reid has very much been very supportive and saying, hey, like this is a guy that someone should hire. Like he's very good, but you're not bringing him back. So is he not fired? Like I'm very confused at what's going on with how the thing ended at Kansas City. But nonetheless, he was a coaching free agent. This is John Harbaugh's second big hire. He hired Jannard Wilson to coach the defense. Now, the big question of who's going to coach the offense, now that Todd Monken, who we'll get to in a little bit, is going to be the head coach of the Browns. We now know it's going to be Matt Nagy. So, Nagy, of course, does have two Super Bowl rings with the Kansas City Chiefs. He has spent much of his career as an Andy Reid assistant, both in Kansas City and in Philadelphia. He was also the head coach of the Chicago Bears in 2018 and 2021, taking them to the playoffs twice in his career. The Chiefs' offense under Matt Nagy progressively got worse. In each of the last 3 seasons, Nagy was OC. They finished 9th in total offense in 2023, 16th in total offense in 2024, and 20th in offense in 2025. Now, Patrick Mahomes obviously missed the last month of this past season, so you got to maybe take 2025 with a little bit of a grain of salt, but they also were having some offensive struggles this past season under Matt Nagy. So Nagy becomes the new offensive coordinator. He's the guy that's going to be heading the development of Jackson Dart. I cannot tell you I'm enthused by this. That's why I said earlier. I mean, I've gotten to hear more details about what went down and more kind of insight on it. It's not going to inspire a lot of confidence in me. Could you have done a lot worse? Definitely. But part of me almost feels like this is one of those things where if Matt Nagy was the choice, I almost would have preferred they went with Davis Webb or somebody who was more like a new guy who maybe you catch lightning in the bottle with, like you did with Detroit did with Ben Johnson. Or that like the Buccaneers did with Liam Cohen before he ended up being the Jaguars head coach. I almost would have rather have done that than get a guy in Nagy who has a play caller, that's even a question mark. How much is he calling plays? That him and Andy Reid are both on that play set. They both have play sheets. It's hard to tell who's calling what. That was the whole issue with Eric Bieniemy. All I know is when Eric Bieniemy was running that offense, that team was the scariest offensive team in the NFL. And Nagy took over, and they were scary only in close games. And they were scary in final drives. They were scary in Patrick Mahomes' winning time. Not scary for a full 4 quarters game because they weren't executing on an offensive level in a consistent way under Matt Nagy. So it's hard for me to look at what he has done with the Chiefs and say that I'm really excited. It's hard to say what he did with Mitchell Trubisky and developing him with the Bears and say I'm really excited. So where do I get excited about this? I almost wonder if there was an opportunity to get a younger guy from a different system who maybe would get their feet wet for the first time and maybe would be a bit of a risk. But I would rather would have done that. I also, like I said a million times, this seemed like an easy money Cliff Kingsbury hire to me. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury is a flight risk because he could potentially be a head coach somewhere. But I think first of all, I think Cliff is a better fit. I think Jackson Dart is good in the shotgun. I think he's good in spread type offenses. He's very mobile in that regard. So I think from that standpoint, he makes more sense than Nagy. Everyone's running kind of a bit of everyone's offense, to be clear. There's a lot of spread concepts that the Chiefs run too. But, of course, Matt Nagy coming from Andy Reid, that's a classic West Coast offense. I don't look at Jackson Dart as that. I look at him as more of like an athlete who is going to make simple reads, and then when the reads aren't there, he's going to use that athleticism. It seems like Cliff did a great job with Jaden Daniels his rookie year. This year, he got hurt. Things didn't work out as well. That happens, fine. I think he would have been a much better fit. I can't look at this Nagy thing and say I'm super excited. He is a veteran play caller, though. He does allow John Harbaugh to do his thing. He can be the CEO, head coach. He's not going to have to look over his shoulder and wonder what's going on with the offense because Nagy, I think, is competent. I don't think he's a total buster. But I had a lot of hopes for this offensive coordinator search. I thought it was not the worst gig in the world. The fact that it landed on Nagy, I'm like, would have liked to see more there. Now, the one thing you can't say about Nagy is, and the main thing you can take away from it, is he did just coach Patrick Mahomes. He did see the greatest quarterback of this generation, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, up close and personal. So I think he will certainly demand, I think, respect immediately from Jackson Dart. I don't think Jackson Dart looks at him and says, "Who the hell are you?" The guy has Super Bowl rings. The guy is Coach Patrick Mahomes. I think he says, "Okay, I'll listen to this guy." And you see Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes will like lower his shoulder, whatever. But Mahomes is smart with his body. He runs when he's supposed to run. So if Nagy can take some of the things that Mahomes did well and show that to Dart and say, "Hey, this is where you can also succeed and be smart with your body when it comes to not taking unnecessary hits and things like that," that I think could be a plus. Is it's gonna have me jumping up in arms, saying, "Oh my God, they got Matt Nagy." No, but I do look at this and say, okay, they could have done a lot worse, but it just feels to me like a missed opportunity. And I think you look at the Giant coordinator hires, and I think there might have been a lot of excitement when Harbaugh came in. I think there's still excitement because he's still a very successful head coach. But what did I tell you guys when he got hired? Like, part of the reason he got fired in Baltimore was because he couldn't figure out how to replace Mike McDonald as defensive coordinator. Like, that was, if the Ravens defense doesn't fall off a cliff, he's still the Ravens head coach, without a question. They lost Mike McDonald. He hired Zachary Orr. And the defense last 2 years fell off a cliff. So I said, I want to see how John Harbaugh does with hiring these coordinators because this is not a given. At the time, he was great at this. He was hiring guys who were getting head coaching opportunities and guys that have been very successful. That hasn't been the case of late. Monken was a good hire, but Orr wasn't. So I want to see what these hires are going to be. Wilson is a younger guy, short amount of time as a coordinator in Tennessee. It's kind of hard to judge. The jury's going to be out. Nagy, I'm like, veteran guy, a lot of stuff to look at. You could definitely look at his resume and piece it apart. You can say where he's good, you can say where he's not. But again, is it going to inspire a lot of optimism, excitement? I don't really think so. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with the Giants OC situation and how the season goes. But now the coaching staff really can start to come in full form now that you have offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator in place under John Harbaugh. We're going to wrap this up with this. So, the Browns introduced a new head coach, Todd Monken. He won what was seemed like a pretty intense, tough decision that the Browns were trying to make in terms of who to hire as head coach. The decision really coming down seemed to be him and sitting defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz. There were all these reports that there were people, and there was a third guy who was in the mix too, but they were talking to the other guys that weren't Jim Schwartz, who were offensive coaches, and said, hey, buddy, like, if we hire you, would you at all be interested in keeping Jim Schwartz on as DC? And there was word that actually may have been a detriment or an impediment to those guys actually being hired, and that was being looked at, and that was all being considered to what the decision was going to be. And Jim Schwartz, obviously, of course, was in the mix also to become the head coach. And eventually they decided we're going to go with Todd Monken. Which, again, the reporting on this is incredible. That day they hired Todd Monken, there's reports with people in Cleveland and NFL insiders being like, Jim Schwartz is walking around telling people that he's done, that he didn't get the job, and that this is his last days in Cleveland. He's very emotional. I'm like, how the hell do we know this? Is someone sending videos? How are people knowing tick for tack what's happening in the Browns facility at this moment in time as the team is preparing to announce that Todd Monken is going to be their head coach? Nothing is ever simple with the Browns. Nothing can be straightforward. Nothing can just simply be, we hired this coach, this guy, defensive coordinator, either he's staying or he's going, and then we move on. It's always got to be something else. Myles Garrett, he can't just request a trade like a normal person and just wait for the team to pay him or get traded and actually leave that dumpster fire. No, he has to put out a letter saying that he never wants to play for the team again and that he wants to play, his burning desire is to play for a team that can win a championship, and then signs for all the money. You have the Deshaun Watson thing where they go through Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield. I can go on and on and on. Why? Shador Sanders, we haven't even talked about him. Nothing can be simple with the Cleveland Browns. And even hiring Todd Monken, which you would think, to me, I'm like, he's like for this to be his first head coaching NFL job, he's 59, going to be 60. Like, okay, a little bit older. Like, this is probably going to be his real one shot at an NFL head coaching job, which is kind of the kind of guy the Browns probably would be able to hire. They're not going to hire a Ben Johnson type, Ben Johnson type to go into Cleveland. So okay, but I'm a big fan of Todd Monken. I'm rooting for him. He's just, I don't know him anything, but in terms of coaches I like, I think he's a good offensive play caller. I said it a ton, and I think the proof is in the pudding given the improvement Lamar Jackson made in the first 2 years with Todd Monken calling the plays. So I was like, they could have done a lot worse. I don't know if he's a head coach, but he's a pretty good play caller. That offense is a mess. They're gonna have to fix a lot of different holes and add a lot of pieces, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see if, I guess, Deshaun Watson's still playing. Who knows? I thought that'd be it. I thought that would be it. We'd move on, but nope. We got the Jim Schwartz going around emotional, talking to people. I can't believe I didn't get the job. He's very upset at the facility. I'm like, he's at the facility doing all this? He was at work when they were like, hey, buddy, you didn't get the job? Like, why is this so dramatic? So then that happens. Okay, maybe the drama has died down. But again, this is like the biggest thing in the world is Jim Schwartz going to stay as defensive coordinator? And it sounds like Todd Monken has had enough of it. If you would have asked me, is this guy, Jim Schwartz, going to stay on the staff? If you heard Todd Monken, I don't think there's any shot that's happening. Him and the ownership group, Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry, they didn't rule it out. But I'll ask you, does this sound like a guy who says that he's going to be bringing back Jim Schwartz? I don't know. He says he wanted this job for the players, not for Jim Schwartz.
My anticipation is we're not going to change the system. Very difficult to go against. I'm not planning on changing the system. We're built for the system that they're in currently. And I'm not going to get into staffing because that's not at this time to get into that. But they can be rest assured that we're going to keep the same system. We're still going to let them attack. We're still going to let them play free. I can't see any other way. They're a big reason why I took this job. The defensive players. I didn't take this job because of Jim Schwartz.
Okay, there you go. It's like, listen, we're going to keep the same system. I don't know if I can talk about staffing. I don't know about staffing, but we're going to keep the same system. We're going to play the same way. Things are going to be just fine. All you people that are panicking, players that may be panicking, relax. It's all going to be good. They're going to play the same way. and it's going to be fine. And I'm here because I really like these players. I didn't come here because I like Jim Schwartz. Whoa, okay. And you thought that that's where the shot ended. No, that's not where the shot ended. It continued.
When I was preparing for the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't trying to chip Jim Schwartz. I was chipping Myles Garrett. And when I was sliding a protection to the outside backers or Grant Delpit that were blitzing off the edge, I was sliding the protection of the players. And when I was worried about throwing to the right against Denzel Ward or Tyson Campbell to the left, that's who I was worried about throwing at.
That's crazy. Todd Monken is like, yo, I played in this division. I coached in this division. When I was preparing against that team, I didn't give a rat's ass about that guy's system, his coaching ability. He was not a thought in my mind. I worried about how the hell am I going to stop Myles Garrett. I worried about how are we going to throw around guys like Denzel Ward. I didn't care about no damn Jim Schwartz. Get out of here with some damn Jim Schwartz. Who would have thought, again, Cleveland, being so messy, so shady, unnecessary drama. To me, it appears unnecessary drama. Why is this so dramatic? This idea of Jim Schwartz and him staying and not staying, it sounds to me like Tom Monken's had enough of this. He's like, I'm the head coach, man. That guy, he did a good job. I respect him. He says that in the quotes that you didn't hear. But I wasn't thinking about no damn Jim Schwartz when I was preparing for this team. I didn't come here because I want to work with Jim Schwartz. I want to come here because I want to work with Myles Garrett. Which, these are cold lines, to be clear. Like, I'm joking about how, I don't know why Cleveland is so messy. This is some of the coldest quotes I think I've ever heard from a head coach in a opening press conference. Just torpedoing shots at a guy who we still know his future is. I think we know now. But coming into this whole thing, the idea was, well, he may still be here. We don't know. We got to hear from the head coach, hear what's going to happen. Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry were kind of playing patty cake with the situation, not wanting to be disrespectful with it. And Jimmy Haslam basically said, hey, today's about, Todd Monken being the head coach. We'll talk about defensive staffing and Jim Schwartz on a different day. Trying to be diplomatic. Todd Monken was not trying to be diplomatic. He even said before, he said, I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this. And I said, oh, God, what's going to come out of his mouth? He said, I wasn't going to say this, I'm going to say this. And he exceeded my expectations with the level of shade that came out. There's no way in hell Jim Schwartz can be brought back as defensive coordinator with that being his introduction from the head coach. No chance in hell. He's done in Cleveland. And now I'm hoping, man, can somebody else hire Jim Schwartz in the division? I don't know. Does Pittsburgh have a defensive coordinator yet? Can they hire Jim Schwartz? I don't know. Does Baltimore have a defensive coordinator yet? There's a lot of different coaching changes. I know the Bengals kept Al Golden. They definitely need a defensive coordinator. I'm like, man, I want Jim Schwartz to leave Cleveland and coach somewhere where he could actually go up against Todd Monken's defense. And we could see what we saw with Liam Cohen and Robert Saleh, where those guys went after it after a game. After Robert Saleh talked about how the Jaguars are great at stealing signs, and Liam Cohen didn't like that. He said, keep my name out your effing mouth. Or a replay of Jim Schwartz hijinks. So remember, way back in the day when Jim Harbaugh, I think this was his first year in San Francisco, and they beat the Lions on a last-second kind of play. Maybe it was a field goal. I forgot what it was. But either way, close game. They beat the Lions. They go up to the handshake line, and Jim Harbaugh does this very patronizing, hard handshake and slap on the back. Attaboy, pal, slap on the back and moved on. And just looked at him like, what the F? And that's why, if I'm Todd Monken, I choose my words wisely. I'll be honest. I respect that he's ducking no smoke, but Jim Schwartz will bring the smoke. Jim Schwartz is kind of a crazy person. And he's the kind of guy that you going to talk crazy about him? Oh, I think there's going to be a receipt paid, whether it's verbal dialogue, whether there's maybe some people got to be separated. Jim Schwartz ain't going to take him. I mean, these shots are crazy. When I was thinking about the Cleveland Browns, I wasn't thinking about chipping Jim Schwartz. I was thinking about chipping Myles Garrett. I came here for the players. I didn't come here for Jim Schwartz. Those are crazy bars. For a guy that allegedly could be on your defensive staff to be your defensive coordinator, you're basically saying this guy is not the reason for the success the players are. Which, oh, by the way, it's a great defense. I understand. But it's not like this team has won much. It's not like this team, it's like they're the 85 Bears. you laying it a little thick in terms of, I know it's a good defense. I know offense is the major issue in Cleveland, but I mean, to just be like, oh, these players, Myles Garrett, I get. And Denzel Ward's good. He named the guys that are the ballers of that team. And Schwarzenegger as well. Like, they got guys. But, I mean, that's crazy. He's basically saying the defensive coordinator had nothing to do with that team's success. But then it's obviously saying they're going to run the same system. So that would suggest that there is something, which is why I think this is kind of personal. The fact that he's saying, oh, no, we'll run Jim Schwartz's system. But who gives a damn if he's still here? That's essentially what Todd Monken's saying. This is brilliant. This is awesome. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm actually wondering what would be better. Would it be better if Schwartz is on the staff? Because you know that level of dysfunction is going to be immeasurable. The level, it's the Cleveland Browns. Again, Jets Midwest. Like, that's going to be a complete clown show. If Jim Schwartz is actually on that staff, he's working for that guy after what happened and what he just said. Or would it be better if he is coaching for another team in the division? Or at the very least coaching a team that plays the Browns this year? Would that be better? And we do have a handshake that happens after a game. And we have a week of dialogue leading up to the game where we play back these clips from February where Todd Monken is saying, I came here for the players of the Cleveland Browns, not Jim Schwartz. By the way, again, he might be the first Browns coach definitely in this era of this current era, since they were not the Baltimore Ravens, they made this expansion team. He might be the first Browns coach ever say, I came to the Browns for the players. Yeah, this is the Cleveland Browns we're talking about. We're not talking about the Chiefs or the Eagles. Like, what are we talking about? Man, that was fun. That was a fun show. That was a funny way to end it, man. Again, I never would imagine that the Browns coaching search would be the most up in the air, diabolical, shady soap opera that it would have become. Maybe I should have expected that because the Browns don't do anything simple, but I thought this one time this would be kind of simple, and it just was not. But that's going to do it for now, man. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out night 17 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. Again, want to watch these shows. We're streaming live on YouTube, New Generation Media, streaming live on X, EJ_Stewart, streaming live on Instagram, Action EJ. Watch it on YouTube, or even if you're not watching on YouTube, you go on after the show or you go on right now, go to the YouTube channel, New Generation Media. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. You can like this video. It definitely helps to support us. We appreciate that. And comment in the comment section, whether it's during the video in these last few moments or after the show. Say, hey, love the episode, great job. And any engagement we could get from this, we really appreciate. So hit us up in the comment section and like the video. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Of course, follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. Follow me on Instagram, Action EJ. Shout out to my guy Jesse, who's been a loyal guy in the Instagram chat. He's been watching the show loyally for several weeks now. Shout out to Jesse. Thanks for watching the IG Live. Again, you can watch on IG Live right now if you want. I want to also say, of course, we do every episode. We post it to our audio streaming platform. So we have our audio channel, New Generation Podcast Network. That's where all episodes of 40 Days, 40 Nights, plus other podcasts we do, like Hero Talk, like Off Script, our wrestling podcast, like Sports Talk, like Imperial Broadcast, which is our Star Wars podcast. All those shows live on New Generation Podcast Network. Search that wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn. And just like with YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give us a 5-star review if you can. Greatly appreciate it. If you leave a written review, that also helps. Again, subscribe to the channel on the audio versions, New Generation Media. That is wherever you get your podcast. Please give us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate it. That's going to do it for this edition of 40 Days, 40 Nights. I want to thank you guys again for checking me out. Night 17 in the books. Day 18 begins, 8 a.m. sharp. Be there or be square. We'll see if there are any more trades. I'm sure we'll have plenty of more NFL stuff to talk about as we get closer and closer to the start of the Super Bowl. Excited for it, man. I'm EJ Stewart. I want to thank you guys so much for checking me out. I'll see you guys in the morning. I'm out.